What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day for Tesla and the markets, as Tesla has the Robotaxi events, not to mention the markets CPI report. So I'm going to break down all this information for you guys. And for the first half of this video, I'm going to just primarily focus on Tesla, on the share price, what's happening for the Robotaxi events, how this could affect the share price. Then I'm going to be talking about CPI and the other charts out there, such as SPY and others. But let me first say that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 more, and you're guaranteed 75. This offer ends in just 3 weeks. Anyways, for Tesla, the share price is lacking volatility, kind of lackluster right now. We're still down 1.4% despite the fact that the market's holding up. So the question is, what's about to happen to Tesla? I want to make this very, very simple to understand. Tesla has two gaps, and I think one of them is going to get filled. So with the whole Robotaxi event for tomorrow, that's going to be Tesla's biggest factor. It's a little bit different from the market. The market's biggest factor for tomorrow is going to be CPI. So I'll be talking about all of that. But I first want to mention that we have these gaps on Tesla. If Tesla is very, very bullish, okay, if we're very, very bullish and we get a very, very nice move, we could push all the way up to fill this gap, all the way up to 260 after the Robotaxi event. If the event is a flop, or if things do not really meet investors' expectations and what we're looking for is not announced, Tesla could dump back down to fill this gap down here into the 220s. So, which way do I think it's going to go? It depends on what Tesla announces. That's going to be the biggest factor for Tesla. So, let's break this down in more detail. So you guys know, we have CPI tomorrow. I'll talk a little bit later about that in the video. That's going to affect Tesla too. But the biggest factor is this right here, the Robotaxi event. So when is this happening? What is going on with this? So basically, it's going to be in Hollywood. It's going to be in California. And it's going to be starting, I believe, at 7 o'clock p.m. That's a Pacific time, so that's very, very different. Sorry, it's not in Hollywood. It's going to be in Burbank, California. So sorry, a little correction there. This is going to be at Warner Bros. Studio. So it's going to be at a movie studio at Burbank, California, not in Hollywood. But very, very cool stuff nonetheless. Can't wait to see what they announce. So the first thing you have to remember is the fact that Tesla is developing a product that is very, very revolutionary. The Robotaxi is something that's not been done yet, at least in a way where it's completely autonomous, it's completely functional, no matter where it is taken, right? There's some companies out there who are trying to do this in like San Francisco, right? It's great, very, very amazing work by them. However, it's not fully functional in every single part of California, every single part of the US, and even different countries. There's still developments that have to be made. And that's something that Tesla has been working on for so long. It's not just Robotaxi, but it's a brain, a computerized brain that's able to think for itself, figure out what it has to do when the time is right. And simultaneously, it's not just doing that, but it's developing other neural networks that could be used for different things. So Tesla's collecting all this data, and they're disrupting so many industries like Lyft, and not to mention the semi truck industry. So many industries are going to be disrupted by this. So we know it's very, very bullish. But the question is, can Tesla present something? Can they give us something that's going to wow investors? That's what's going to be very important about the event for the share price. So, in my opinion, I don't think that we're ready for robotaxis yet to be like launched tomorrow or anything like that. I think that with the hardware that Teslas have, they're not ready yet. I think that it's going to be many years until we officially get this. And I think that there might be like an application process for those who own Teslas. So I think what's going to happen is Tesla's going to announce that, and then they are going to give us a prototype of the robotaxi, the way it moves, how it works. And as long as that goes well, it's going to be bullish for the company. Now, on top of that, I want to mention that for this whole robotaxi event, Tesla needs to give us a presentation. I think they're going to do that, and it should go well. I really hope it does. Most likely, it should be fine. That is going to be very, very important for them. If that goes well, that's going to be bullish for the share price. But that's not the main thing. Okay. The main thing is going to be them having a realistic path to succeeding at this, then announcing the cyber cab. That's going to be the big thing that a lot of people are looking for. The cyber cab. What is the prototype going to look like? Is it just going to have like a design like this? It's going to have just two doors. What is this going to look like? What is the future of this? I think that there was a design that came out with about two doors and two seats. Very cool. It looks similar to the Cybertruck to some extent. Like if you look at the rear right over here, I think that could be cool. If they announce this, that's going to be pretty bullish. But the biggest thing is, in my opinion, going to be how well they present FSD with this. the Robotaxi with this, and then simultaneously what other models come out. So if they start talking about the Robotaxi, but they don't announce any new models, I think that the share price may sink, and that might not be enough to really help us, and we could be coming down to fill this gap. So I think we need a new model. We need them to announce something very big for some kind of model, and we need them to do that while simultaneously giving us a good Robotaxi presentation, because you have to remember that investors were waiting for this for a long time. A lot of investors know that we have the product. They know that we have this FSD in the works. So they're expecting something that's going to really wow them. And I think that this is what the most important thing is here, or one of the most important things. Don't just wow investors. Don't just give them some kind of robotaxi, but give them another product, something that's going to wow them and something that could help boost their sales. I think that's going to be a very important factor for them. And I think if you want to see Tesla go to 260 a share by Friday or even like early next week, this is going to be the big game changer. If they announce the Model 2 and a prototype that's $25,000, if they do this, and this is what Gene Munster has been talking about, they're a very important analyst. I believe they're from Deepwater. They're saying that that's going to be huge. I think the Cybervan could be announced. Maybe you know how they had this curtain right over here. That could be it. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm not too sure about the Cybercab, the Cyber van, but I'm talking about the Model 2. So if they give us a Model 2 and they say it's $25,000, if they announce it and they say this is coming out, they're working on it, that's bullish. That's very, very bullish. I think the share price is going to run. But that's under the condition that they present the Robotaxi correctly, their presentation goes well, and they announce the Cybercab, not to mention the Model 2 with the $25,000 EV. If that comes out, guys, this thing is going to rocket. I think that's going to be bullish news for Tesla, because what's happening is EVs are becoming cheaper. Okay, believe it or not, if you look at statistics, they're getting cheaper. And what's going to happen is China is becoming a big industry. It's a massive industry for the EV world. Tesla's going to need something else that's going to give them another advantage. So having a more affordable EV could be huge for them. So that's my view of this. Okay, the new models are going to be one of the biggest factors. So just to clarify, if Tesla does a robotaxi presentation and it fails and they mess up, the share price could still drop, guys. Okay, if they do the robotaxi presentation and it goes well, but if that's all they give us, the share price could also still drop. Okay, so if it's just robotaxi, that's not enough, in my personal opinion. But if they announce the robotaxi and they talk about the cybercab and how it's going to be working, and they do the presentation well, and then they start announcing these new EVs such as the $25,000 EV, I think that that's going to push this up, and this is going to be pushing it for 260. I think so. I think that's what my view is for Tesla. I think it depends on a lot of different factors, but I would presume that most likely things are going to be fine. People were asking me about McDonald's getting involved. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. If McDonald's is involved, that's going to be cool. Just like a partnership, that could be another bullish catalyst. But it's not really the biggest factor. The biggest factor is going to be what models they come out with. So that's my view of Tesla for the next for Friday, right? For what's going to happen by Friday to the share price. Give us a robotaxi and nothing else, and this thing is going to drop. Do a good presentation of the robotaxi and give us a new like Cybercab and a Model 2, the $25,000 EV, and this thing is going to rocket. That's what I think is going to happen. And my gut tells me they delayed the event, because Elon Musk is thinking this is what they're going to be doing. I think they're going to give us that new EV, and I think it's going to help the share price go. That's what my prediction is. I could be wrong, guys. I could be like some kind of optimist, and I could be off on that. So we'll see. But that's what my view is. Anyways, with that aside, what about tomorrow specifically? Because you have to remember that we have a full trading day tomorrow for Tesla and the markets. And then after the market closes tomorrow, that's when we have the Robotaxi event. So the question now remains, what's going to happen to the markets, at least in terms of our data? I'm going to be kind of quick with this part so I can get back to the charts. So let's go over some data. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, October 10th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the CPI report coming out. We're basically expecting everything to go down except for core CPI year over year, which we're expecting to be about the same. So just to clarify, 0.2% is what we're expecting for core month over month, which is a decrease. We're expecting year over year core CPI to be about the same, 3.2 to 3.1%. For everything month over month, we're expecting 0.1%, a slight decrease. And then year over year for all items, we're expecting 2.3%, which is a slight decrease. So we're expecting everything to go down except for core CPI year over year. That's the main thing we're going to be looking out for. That's the biggest thing that's going to be affecting things. Also, initial jobless claims is expected to be coming out. And besides that, we just have some Fed speakers, so everything else is minor. So the main piece of data is going to be CPI. We'll be watching to see how that affects the markets. Also, note there's a 70.4% chance we get a 50 basis point cut according to the markets for November. About 29.6% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. We'll see how things go, so be very patient. For other pieces of data, I just want to mention that right now the market's very greedy. Greed is making up the majority of sentiment. Momentum is also at greed. The put to call option ratio is going up a bit because we're starting to see a little bit more shorting in the markets, and volatility is dipping a bit for the VIX as we have a gap to fill. So this is still a little bit more bullish looking. So we'll see how things are going to be going from there. On top of this, I want to mention that we have like Delta announcing earnings. It's all very minor. The main earnings day is going to be Friday when we have JP Morgan, not to mention Wells Fargo and BlackRock. The last thing is we'll see what happens involving Israel and Iran. Iran, a lot of things happen involving them for the last couple of weeks, and Israel. I'm just trying to say that this goes back many years. It's not just like it started a couple of weeks ago, but because of what happened last week, Israel is basically saying that they're going to be doing a retaliation. We'll see if that ends up being the case. They keep saying they're going to do it, but we don't know exactly when. It could happen as soon as tomorrow, later on. So just keep this in the back of your mind just to be safe. But anyways, let's talk about the share prices. What do I see for the market now? I just want to focus on that. So I went over the Robotaxi event, what I think about Tesla for that, but that's the main move is going to happen on Friday. So after market close on Thursday, tomorrow, that's when we have the Robotaxi event. The reaction comes on Friday. For tomorrow specifically, we could see Tesla try to gap up depending on CPI or gap down. If you get a decent CPI on Tesla, we'll likely try to push for 244, but then we might just continue to consolidate due to uncertainty about the event. If we get a bad CPI, Tesla could be dipping back down to 240. If that fails us, we could dip a little bit lower to 238. My guts tells me we're going to gap up tomorrow. I think CPI is going to be decent, looking at the charts and how they're reacting so far. And then Tesla's going to consolidate in this range for some time, continue to consolidate around 240. And then the real move is going to come when the Robotaxi event, after the Robotaxi event, either Tesla launches to 260 or we get a rug pull. I'm hoping we get that 260 move, and this possibly could be a cup and handle, maybe. I don't know for sure, guys. It could be one. This depends on what Tesla announces. If they give us that new Model 2 and the $25,000 EV, that's going to be huge. So we'll see if Tesla announces that. And also, we want to see their presentation be successful for the Robotaxi. Besides that, for SPY, if we are bullish, we want to see this thing continue to break out. So we have 578s to 580 is my target if we're bullish after CPI. If we're bearish and CPI is high, we want to see us lose 575. If that breaks, we're going back down to 572, then 570. My gut tells me the 4 hours looking more bullish, and this could be pushing for 578 and eventually closer to 580. I think we might be pushing for 580, then we could slow down as the day goes on, as the most likely move. Looking at how we look bullish on the 4 hour and very bullish on the daily, the market's very excited for CPI. So with all the last reports being decent and the fact that crude oil did dip a little bit for last month, there's a good chance that the September data is going to be decent. The market may go a little bit higher for the 580 resistance, and then we'll see how we react after that. We could slow down once we get to that level. But that's what my gut is telling me. For ES, we're trying to push a little bit higher for the 58, 5840 area. I think we could be looking for 5850 as our target after CPI, if not a little higher. Then we could slow down as the day goes on. If you lose 5820, we're going to be dipping back down to about the 5793 area for a dip if CPI is hot. But my gut is telling me that there's a very, very good chance that this could push a little bit higher just temporarily before we get a rug pull later on. So look for a little bit more upside for 5850, and then we'll see how the reaction happens to be. For Nvda, we basically priced in the AI summit, so that's why it's been running so nicely so far. But because this price is slowing down a bit, we could pop a little bit with CPI, but I think this is going to dip soon. We could pop to about 135 and start dipping back down to 130, or we could try to just start dipping from the very, very beginning, depending on CPI. My gut tells me we kind of pop up a little bit tomorrow morning and start dipping to 130 for a small dip. As technicals look a little bit exhausted, we might be looking for a little dip. Bitcoin's a little bit more bearish. We could hit 61,000 and start dipping lower, or we could just start dipping from here all the way down to the 59,000 area. So we'll see which way we go as we have a head and shoulders. So give this the time it needs. For other factors out there, we also happen to have NQ. NQ is looking more bullish. We're looking for 20,500 as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for a bigger push. If we end up losing 20,200, we're looking for a dip back down to 20,000 flat. This is favoring more upside for 20,600. It looks a little bit more bullish to me looking at this accumulation. So the charts are favoring upside for CPI, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. For the QQQ, we look a little bit more bullish. If we break the high, we're going up to 495 to 500. If we reject it, we're looking for a dip back down to 488 or below. This chart is for everything that wants to get closer to 500. We'll see if you reject off that or not. So be very patient nonetheless. I think we might push a little bit with CPI, and then we'll see what the reaction happens to be. For Apple, 230 may be tested. If we're bullish, maybe 232, a little bit higher thanks to CPI. And we'll see if we reject, because every time we've hit 233 for the last few months, we've rejected. So it's a tough resistance on Apple. For more upside for 232 to 233, we'll see if we reject. If we're bearish, you want to lose 226, but my gut tells me we kind of pop first before we see some slowdowns. For other factors, we also happen to have Palantir, which looks more bullish. 44 to 45 could be tested very soon. A little bit more upside. We'll see if you reject. For bearish, you want to lose 42 to start dipping to 40, but this is still favoring the upwards direction, in my personal opinion. There's a good chance we try to push higher, so we'll give this as much time as it needs, and that's what I favor to be the most likely move. For super micro, we're kind of stuck in the middle. We have basically 45 as support and 51 as resistance. We're stuck in between. We'll see if we push for 50, and we'll see what the reaction is. We could test 48s to 50, then come back down. Rivian is looking pretty decent. Might be trying to push past 10.5 to push up for 11. Might try to rebound with Tesla in the market just temporarily, but we'll see if you reject after CPI. For SoFi looks a little bit more bullish because this is despite the fact that we have this rising wedge like structure. We could try to push closer to about 8.8, and we'll see if you reject or not, but this is still looking a little bit more bullish. For the IWM Russell 2000, we are range bound right here. If we end up losing 215, we could be dipping. If we break past 220, we're going to be bullish. My gut tells me we could be testing 220, and we'll see what the reaction is after we get CPI. If we hit 220, we could start dipping right back down as we're on a bit of a downtrend, but I think we're just consolidating within a range. For AMD, we have the big event, so look for 169.5 to be tested in the pre-market. A decent CPI and a good event anticipation could cause us to bounce back up to 175. If we lose 169.5, we're going back down to 164.8. We could dip and bounce, so I'll see if that ends up being the case. For Coinbase, we look a little bit more bearish. We need to break past 169 to turn bullish. Otherwise, we're at risk of dipping down to fill this gap towards 164. Amazon could push a little higher for 185. If that breaks, we're looking for we're looking for 186.5 to 188. Might go a little bit higher, but we'll see if you reject later on as we have a slight downtrend that's still technically being respected. It depends on what it does relative to this high right here. For Meta, we look a little bit okay. We're kind of stuck in the middle. We do have 30 states suing them, so not the best of news, which could cause a dip. Watch 587.09. If we lose that, we start dipping to 580. We have 592 as our resistance. My gut tells me that we might try to pop a little bit, then start dipping a little bit lower. We could pop closer to about 595 and start dipping to 587. And I think there's a little bit of weakness building after the big pump we got. For Microsoft, we hit 420 only to resist and reject. We have 414 as support. We could pop to 420 again, then start dipping to 414 all over again because of some negative news. We got a downgrade. Same thing happened to Google. We got a downgrade. That's why it's a little bit lackluster. Could try to retest 164, then reject, but it looks a little bit more bearish. It might be getting closer to 162 and eventually 160. That being said, DJT is kind of dipping. If we don't reclaim 20.5, I'm seeing 18.98 coming. That could be dipping a little bit lower. The VIX might dip because the market's going to push a little bit higher. So maybe this comes down to fill this gap, but then this could bounce later on because we still have this other gap to fill up here. And also, it's also due to seasonality and other factors like that. So perhaps the market pumps a little bit more as the VIX drops to the 19s. And then there's a bounce big time as the market dips. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. The 10-year looks a little bit more bullish as we have these gaps to fill, especially as time goes on. And the dollar looks a little bit more bullish, which is technically a little bit more bearish for the market, which gives a risk of us dipping. So for Tesla, I'm not expecting as much tomorrow during market open hours. It might gap up depending on CPI and see still lots of consolidation. But one thing that's worth mentioning is that the market may go to new all-time highs, and then we're going to be looking for some tough resistance. Now, whether Tesla gets a big bounce or a rug pull is going to depend on the Robotaxi event. So get ready for this going into tomorrow after the market is closed. Be prepared, guys. There's going to be a lot of eyes watching this event, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. But with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow morning before the market opens to report how CPI is going and get ready for the Robotaxi day for tomorrow. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you guys soon tomorrow. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world, and peace out.